My name is Mad Skills, and you are now tuned into the Spark Something podcast. And right here, I want you guys to be the best version of yourself. I want you to live out the life that God is calling you to live out, because there'll never be another you. And no one else can do it the way that you can do it. Not with the flavor God has given you. So with that being said, welcome to the show. Let's go. Yo guys, what's up? This is your girl Mad Skills, and this is the Spark Something podcast. I want to thank you guys for coming back and lending me your ears. Let's get into this episode. So I don't care how far I go, I always come back to what God has called me to do. I always come back to Him. There's nowhere else to go outside of that for me. I don't know about anybody else. So I realize as an adult, we're always chasing after money. Not all of us, but ones that come from poverty, ones that aren't used to having much of anything, ones that's seen their family struggle and work hard for things. And we always feel like we have to do that and be on that rat race or that cycle over and over and over. And I don't want to do that with my life. But sometimes it's difficult because you can easily get distracted because you want more, better. But when you're on the spiritual side or the spiritual aspect of wanting more and wanting better, a lot of the times you have to get delayed gratification. And with that delayed gratification, it don't feel good. It don't make you feel good. And to be honest, I'm doing this off the top of the dome because I got this feeling, and I just got triggered, to be honest. And I said this in a couple episodes ago, like I'm learning my triggers, and I've grown so much just in the past year that I've changed a lot. And God has been changing and transitioning me a lot. And I'm realizing that I have to face certain things that make me uncomfortable. And I have to, and I'm going to say this. I've spent so much of my life trying to convince people that I was worth it, or trying to convince people that I have a dream and I have a goal and I got a plan. And it sucks when the people that's closest to you don't see the goal, the plan, the vision, the dream. It makes you feel some type of way because you feel like they don't believe in you. And it's hard sometimes when your people don't believe in you. But I'm gonna keep it a buck. Like, you can't allow that to deter you from you believing in you. I've gone through that roller coaster ride for so long of trying to convince people like, yo, I got it. I promise. I'm good. I can do this. And they're like, yeah, all right, whatever. Like, but what are you doing in the meantime? And it's like, I realized that I spend so much of my time trying to either convince someone that I got it, or I spend so much of my time trying to get them um to be comfortable where they're at, to meet them where they are, to the point to where I get off focus. Like I get off the track that I've been on, and instant gratification feels great. Things that come easy. And I realize when I'm in those those situations to where I feel, like I have to convince someone, or I feel like I have to show somebody, like it triggers me. And it triggers me and makes me feel like I'm not good enough because I haven't made it yet, because you haven't seen the progress or the work that I've put in. And I do a lot of things in the dark. I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes because sometimes I don't feel confident, or sometimes I don't feel comfortable. Y'all about to get this episode real raw and uncut. Sometimes I don't always feel like I'm capable of doing certain things. And then I have my days to where I'm like, let's go. Here we go. Here the freak we go. Like sometimes I have those moments to where it's like, yes, I can do this. And then other times when you're like in it and you're doing the work, like you don't really realize how much work and energy and effort you've put into something until you've done it and you step back and you can see, like, I remember where I was at when I did this, or I remember where I was at the middle. And it's so much energy and effort that you put in that you can't really see the bigger picture until you really step back and you look at the canvas. And I've been so laser focused on certain things to I can't see the bigger picture all the time. I'm just like, I need to get this done right here. And I've been looking at content all day, and I've been looking at certain things, as far as like a new setup, because I want to start doing video. I think doing video would be dope. Um, and I remember, if this was me last year or the year before, looking at content, or thinking about expanding, I would quit. I would really stop doing what I'm doing now to be like, oh, I'm not there yet, so I might as well give up. And I listen to other people who do podcasts, and I listen to their story, and I listen to the fact that they had to start from somewhere. Like, we got to start from somewhere, from something, and we have to keep going. And we can't quit, or we can't give up, because it's not always going to look polished. It's not always going to look up to par. Everybody's not going to understand it. And I talk about that a lot because I've experienced that for most of my life. And I'm like, I know one of these gifts is going to produce something. All of them might not produce something, but one of these gifts are going to produce something. And I have to remain consistent in what God is calling me to do, because I can't sleep. I don't feel like myself. Like one of these gifts have to make room for me. I believe it. One of these gifts have to make room for what is next. One of these gifts is going to open the door for another one of these gifts to slide through. One of these gifts is going to open the door for somebody I know to slide through. Like, one of these gifts is going to take the door off the hinges, and it's going to make room. Like, I have to keep my faith, and I have to believe that, because I realize that people the people that's closest to you, a lot of the times they don't mean any harm by it. They really don't. Some of them just don't believe in themselves. And it's not that they don't want you to believe in you. It's just they need to see the finished product for it to make sense to them. And you're a dreamer, baby. And that's cool. That's cool that you're a dreamer. That's cool that you got a goal. That's cool that you have a plan. But I need you to remain focused and not allow distractions to really knock you off your pivot. Because they're coming in all shape, form, or fashion. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, who it is, where they from, where they remember you from. Like, it's gonna happen. And it's gonna happen when you're at your highest. It's gonna happen when you're at your lowest. Now imagine, for all of my creatives out there, imagine you creating something that you've spent your blood, sweat, and tears in, and you post it on social media, or you post it on YouTube, and you get comments that are negative, and you because of these comments from people you don't even know, you give up or you quit or you stop and it's like, dude, your gifts are going to make room. Everybody's not going to like you. You're not going to do well at everything. Some things you're going to fail miserably at. But the one thing that you're doing that a lot of people aren't doing is trying. The one thing that you're doing that a lot of people don't do is show up for themselves. The one thing that you're doing that a lot of people don't do is continuing to remain consistent in the process. And the process is going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. And I'm doing this episode because I'm in a headspace, and I'm in a moment to where I don't feel like quitting. I don't feel like giving up. I'm just like, what's next? Like, I want to make sure that where I'm at is I'm not out of the way. Like, I'm exactly where I need to be. And I'm uncomfortable in this season. This is probably the most uncomfortable season I've been in. Not even. I can't even say that. It just keeps getting more and more uncomfortable. And I keep staying right here because I refuse to have put in all this work, all these prayers, all this time with God and get nothing out of it. I will not let him go until he blesses me. I will not let him go until he opens the door. And even after he does that, like, I'm going to need him to lead and guide me when I get the blessing. Like, God, help me to steward this. Show me what it is that I need to do. Like, I can't do this without him. You going to look foolish. You're going to look crazy. People aren't going to understand. And you have to be okay with that. It's not for them to get it. I'm going to keep saying that on this podcast because it's true. You know how crazy I look to some, to most, to a lot, to a few? You know how insane this feels sometimes? But you don't hear the knocking. You don't hear the tapping. You don't hear the ticking. You don't hear the buzzing. You don't hear the beeping. You don't hear those things. Like, it's in my soul. Like, you don't hear the knocking. Like, hey, 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 I need you to do this. Hey, excuse me, I need you to get to work. Hey, like, you don't hear it. It's embedded in my soul, and God won't let me just sleep. He won't let me just be average. He won't just let me just do everyday, mundane, the same thing. Like, and I'm not bashing anybody who does. I just know that God has called me to do something different. And to believe in yourself. Oh my God, do you know how hard that is sometimes when you don't see results? Do you know how hard that is sometimes when you've lived your life trying to convince people that you're good enough? Do you know how difficult that is to keep showing up? Do you know how hard it is sometimes just to be like, hey, I got a plan. Here's the plan. Bop, 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 bop. But you know how freeing it is for you to not care what people think? Do you know how freeing and liberating it is for you to keep going regardless of what they say? Because there's a ticking and there's a knocking at the door that's saying, hey, hey, where you at? Hey, we talked about this. Hey, there's people waiting for you. Hey, I put this in you, and I am not going to just die right here, bro. I'm trying to die on empty. Like, everything that God has called me to do, I need to do it. I have to do it before I'm out of here. Like, I can't just sit around and do absolutely nothing. I don't have all the money in the world. I would love to, but I don't know if I can steward it well. I don't have all of the resources in the world. And that's cool if you don't have a whole lot of money, if you don't have a whole lot of resources, bro, just get started. I'm telling you now, it's a difference. Bro, I was talking to a friend of mine. Big shout out to Lene. I was talking to her and I was telling her, I said, dog, I haven't shot an episode in months, in over a month. And the last episode I shot before last week's episode was December 1st. And she was like, yeah, I know. I listened to it. And I was like, yo, I appreciate you. Big shout out to you. I love you for that. And I came back and this isn't that important, but it's major to me. Um just to know that where I was at was searching God and seeking his face and making sure that I was where he needed me to be in order for me to receive what I needed to receive for him in that moment. He's been grooming me and shaping me and molding me and encouraging me and and growing me and maturing me. And it's been a rough season. But in that quiet time of a little over a month, I came back to my anchor, or I came back to my podcast and host. Big shout out to Anchor by Spotify. Y'all definitely telling y'all trying to create a podcast, Anchor is the way to go. There's so many other ones, but Anchor is the one that I use. So yeah, definitely check Anchor out. But I went and I checked out my Anchor and I checked out my stats, and dog, this podcast, for me not to have dropped an episode in over a month, this podcast is in the UK. I got UK stats on here. I got Italy stats on here. Of course, I have the United States, but I have UK and Italy. Those are two places I've never been to. But guess who's there? This podcast is there. Guess who's listening? Whoever is, I don't know who's listening. All I know is this podcast has touched somebody in Italy. This podcast has touched somebody in the UK. Sweetheart, baby boy, baby, like, listen to me. When I tell you I am in my closet still with the USB microphone that I bought years ago, with my laptop that I bought over 2 years ago, and I've been in my closet on top of my hamper in here. And I've already explained to y'all this ain't that big. I got enough space to put some shoes in here. And the fact that God has blessed me to start something that I started in my closet, and it has literally reached another countries. It's like, dog, who would have thought? Me. Who would have thought? Me using my and I'm gonna say it, me using my slingshot. Who would have thought? Now imagine if I'm consistent every week. Imagine if I'm consistent every month. Imagine if I can't even say if, I'm sorry. Imagine when I'm consistent every week. Imagine when I'm consistent every month. Imagine when I go to God and I'm praying and I'm seeking him and I'm saying, God, whatever I do, breathe on it. Whatever I do, go, and you can go before me because I trust you. If I'm in his will, he is going to bless it. If you're in his will, he is going to bless it. If you are doing what God has called you to do, he is going to bless it. Hands down, point blank, period. I don't know who's listening in the UK or who's listening in Italy, but big shout out to y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all. For the people that's listening here in the US, I'm just a little girl from, I can't even say little girl. I'm just a woman that grew up in Broward County, Florida. Fort Lauderdale, to be exact. My mom, Sylvia, my dad, Renzel, like, I'm Sylvia and Renzel's baby girl. I just started to do what God had called me and told me to do. Now, when I'm consistent, when I'm persistent, when I'm seeking God, when I'm doing what he called me to do, when you're doing and you're in where God has called you to be, you ain't got to question that. Your gifts are going to make room. God is going to put you in places that your feet have not even touched. I don't even know these people, but I thank God for these people, because then you can tell your friends about this podcast, and your friends can tell their friends about this podcast. Same thing with my people here. You can tell your friends about this podcast, and then you can tell your grandparents about this podcast. All you have to do is do what God said, and your gifts will make room. I know sometimes we get up and we have, if you're anything like me, where you are multi-gifted, whew, I'm going to say this. And this is what is going to free you, because it helped to free me. When you wake up and you pray, I'm telling you, give God your day. This is what blessed me. Give God your day early in the morning. Or when you rise, give God your day. Give God your time. And you ask God, Lord, what gift shall I use today? Lord, what gift shall I use in this season that you have me in? And I guarantee you he'll lead you. I guarantee you he'll guide you. And that's for all my multi-gifted people. Lord, what gifts will you have for me to use in this season? What gifts will you have me to use today? That's for my multi-gifted people. Trust me, it'll free you. But I was in a mood before I started this episode. But I'm glad God allowed me to be a vessel that he can use for other people. Because sometimes you wake up, and if you're anything like me, and I could talk about me, I don't know about y'all, but if you're anything like me, sometimes you wake up and you are winging it. You're winging it. We can't wing it this year. We can't wing it anymore. Sometimes we wake up and we winging it. No more winging it. No more winging it. God, what gifts will you have me to use today? Trust me, your gifts will make room. If God be lifted up, he will draw. He will make your name great. He will make whatever he has given you to do great. Your intentions have to be in the right place. Your heart has to be in the right place. Your mind has to be in the right place. Your posture to him has to be in the right place. He will enlarge your territory. With that being said, welcome to the family. All my people that are listening to this episode or listening to this podcast for the very first time, thank you. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for DMing me. I appreciate y'all from the bottom of my heart. God told me y'all would be here. And I'm honored to be a vessel that he can use to speak into your life. So I'm actually about to end this episode right here, because I feel like, and that's all, folks, So I appreciate y'all. Continue to comment, like, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I promise I will be adding more content on there very, very soon. So I'm going to add content on there that is only going to be audio when it comes to the podcast, because I need to catch up on all my videos up there. And gradually, once I start expanding and figuring out some stuff, because I'm researching some new stuff for the podcast, for me to be able to do this, the visuals for it. And I'm going to be stepping out of my closet into the apartment, and my apartment has very thin walls. So I've been looking for some soundproof stuff that's not that expensive. I think I might have found some things that I like on Amazon, but I'm still looking around, doing some research on some stuff before I spend some guap, because I ain't trying to spend that much bread starting out right now. So, I love y'all. I appreciate you guys. I thank you once again. Continue to stay where you're at. If God has called you here, if He has called you to where you are, stay right there and do not move. I promise. It's gonna get uncomfortable. It's gonna feel like you wanna just take off and scream and run and go crazy. But I promise you are right there at the very end of a breakthrough. You are right there at the end of whatever is on the other side of that. So stay right there. Do not move. Love y'all. I thank y'all. This has been your girl Mad Skills. This is another episode of the Spark Something podcast. And I hope this sparks some in your life. And I'm out. Peace, baby.